In 2016, the Securities and Exchange Commission reached an agreement with the Debt Management Office to issue Nigeria's maiden sovereign Sukuk. Now, Sukuk is an Islamic financial certificate similar to a bond in Western finance that complies with Sharia Islamic religious laws. Now, unlike Western bonds, the Sukuk is a non-interest bond, meaning its investors will not be paid interests in line with Islamic laws and standards. Also, funds realized from a Sukuk issuance can only be deployed to assets such as infrastructure. Now, on September 14th, 2017, subscription for the maiden 100 billion naira Sukuk opened after a roadshow through Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kano and Kaduna to engage with prospective investors. But since the issuance of the Sukuk, it has been trailed by controversy, with the Christian Association of Nigeria accusing the federal government of trying to Islamize the country from the back door, like they say. Although this is the first Sukuk on the federal level, it is not the first in Nigeria. Osun State had in 2013 issued 10 billion naira worth of Sukuk, and the bond was successfully completed and oversubscribed by 20%. Wow. Well, it is now time for us to talk about some of these things so we can get to know better. Now, I have with me in the studio the special advisor to Governor of Osun State, Bishola, on information and strategy, Shemiu Okunlawo. He's here with us in the studio. It's nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, it is no news that the controversy surrounding Sukuk has gone viral, let me say, if I have to put it that way. But you come from a state that started the issue of Sukuk in the first place. In fact, up until now, not so many Nigerians know what Sukuk is about. Can you give us a basic understanding? So those who are either not Muslims or those who have never even heard about Sukuk will get to have an understanding of what it means before we even get into the controversies.
Yeah, first of all, let me say that I don't know what the basis of the controversy is. And as a people, as a country, I think if we want to go anywhere, we have to put an end to this mutual suspicion all the time that we make move to do certain things that are good to be of benefit to us as a country. Just like you said in the rundown, you said that Osun pioneered the Sukuk scheme in Nigeria. Of course. Let me give you a background to that. When we came in 2010, a few months after that in Osun, we had what we called an education summit, which was convened by the governor to review the whole gamut of our education infrastructure and all that. And at the end of that summit, part of the conclusions was that we had to drastically change the infrastructure outlook of the state educational sector. And of course, how will you do that if you don't have enough resources? Of course, we are talking about a state that was generating about 300 million naira monthly IJR. How will you go ahead with such ambitious projects? And of course, we had promised people that we were going to change the landscape of education. And part of the options that were open to us was this Sukuk financial instrument that was open to us for consideration. And of course, going into the details of it, we saw that it was going to be of immense benefit to us as a state. And I think since 2013, when we went on this adventure, I think it's been a very nice story to tell.
All right, so give us the specifics of the success story in Osun State that you got. What really did you do with the Sukuk that you got that was even oversubscribed at that time?
Yeah, of course. Oversubscribed by 20%. Of course, you see, when people raise dust over things like this, I just laugh. When I read it,
but would you blame them?
Sorry, when I read the press statement by the Christian Association of Nigeria talking about Islamization, I just laughed. I said, why are we going over this same road all over again? In 2013, when Osho came up with Sukuk, we knew what the Christian Association of Nigeria said at that time. And of course, how many years down the line, at least you should be able, with the benefits of insight, to be able to observe that, okay, after the implementation, after the issuance of the Sukuk, and we can also see the good proceeds of the of the bond.
So specifically,
what
let's
is
know
it
what
that
Osun
you
State
can
did.
point to as an element of Islamization of the state of Osun in the first instance, before you now begin to talk of another Islamization of Nigeria? Don't forget, in 2014, Britain itself went for Sukuk. It is a way of looking
South
for
Africa has
alternative way
has
of
taken that line.
sourcing for revenue to fund infrastructure. A country such as Nigeria, now the federal government is talking of 100 billion naira for infrastructure. Are we happy with the state of our roads? Are we happy with the state of our schools?
So Samuel, share with us, let us know precisely what the Sukuk that was
has been able to do it for us in Osun.
In Osun State.
Oh, fine.
Let's start from there.
You see, even, let me give you an example. If you go to Osun now, there is no one who will controvert the fact that the landscape as far as education infrastructure has changed completely. When we took the bond, we took it specifically for the education infrastructure. And if you go to Osun now, there is no part of our state where you will not find those enticing, those befitting education infrastructure that will give you a sense of confidence that, look, the future of this state has been rescued from being bleak. I mean, when you consider what we met on ground. We met a situation on ground where the schools that what we called schools then, were not what you could even put your animals, your pets in. And these were schools. And of course, to us as a government, that was unacceptable. Now, if you go to Osun, if you go to Osogbo, for instance, you see the Osogbo Government High School. If you go to Osogbo, you see Ataoja Government High School. If you go to Osogbo, you see Fakunle Comprehensive High School. If you go to Iwo, you see, nearing completion, Iwo High School. If you go to Ejigbo, you see Wole Soyinka Government High School. If you go to Ila, you see Ila Government High School. If you go to Ikirun, you see Akiorun Government High School. If you go to Ilesha, you see Ilesha High School. If you go to Ikire, and we have 11 of these very gigantic schools. I doubt, without sounding immodest, I think in the whole of Nigeria, I doubt whether you'll be able to see where you have such structures when it comes to educational infrastructure in Nigeria.
All right. Now, Osun State also pioneered the school feeding program.
Of course.
Was it from the Sukuk funds that was handled?
You see, don't let us get it wrong. Osun actually did not pioneer school feeding program. Right. The school feeding program was actually a program that started under the Obasanjo regime. But of course, after some states started it, they found it to be something they could not handle. Many of them are checking out. Now, when this government came in, we reviewed the entire scheme and looked at the best way for us to introduce it and make it better and much more productive. And it was relaunched. And that is what you are talking about pioneering. Well, most people will consider it to be right to say also pioneers because right from the time our state started our school feeding program, we have not looked back. Even at the worst of time, when we were hit by the most debilitating economic situation, when the issue of salaries, I mean, was the only thing you were hearing about Osun, like now that Osun has been able, I mean, to pay its salaries, I mean, its workers up to date, according to the agreement that we do with workers. When you look at the school feeding program, it is something that has really changed also part of education and also helped the state economically. So when you're talking about the school feeding program, it is something that we have perfected to the extent all part of Nigeria, I mean, is adopting our own template. And that was why the federal government itself, when it was going to start the nationwide implementation of school feeding program, had to use the Osun template. So for us in Osun, we are happy that some of the things that we have introduced, be it in the area of Sukuk, be it in the area of school feeding, and some other aspect of
the federal government has adopted.
Life, federal government has found many of them to be comfortable avenue for it to peak in order to solve many of the national challenges.
All right. Now, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing gave a breakdown of what the 100 billion naira Sukuk bond, if they get the money, what roads it will get into.
I'm sure they'll get it.
And so on. Most likely they will get it.
I have no doubt in my mind.
Okay. But in all of this, do you think, for the controversy that was generated by Khan and so many other Nigerians, do you think that is the issue of trust? as to when government gets this money, even beyond the issue of Islamization and all of that, when government gets this money sometimes, it doesn't, what is it, 100% execute this monies according to specifications sometimes.
You see, why Sukuk is, carries an added advantage is this. Whatever you have stated in the application for the issuance of Sukuk, whatever you have stated as the objective for taking that bond is what you must apply it to. That was why
how would it be monitored?
See, now of course, you said it, this thing cannot be done haphazardly. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is there. So, of course, this is something that has a mechanism of its own, and the experts on Sukuk will tell you the kind of mechanism with which it will be monitored. That was why in Osun, when people saw that a lot of gigantic, ambitious projects still continued at a time that the issue of salary became controversial, people felt, why don't you take the money with which you are building schools to pay workers' salaries? And we said, no. The money with which we are executing this project, yes, these gigantic classrooms that you are seeing, or this project that you are seeing, they are proceeds from the Sukuk bond. And so you cannot take the proceeds from this bond to go and finance any other thing. If you have said that you are going to use Sukuk proceeds to build classrooms, you must use it to build classrooms. If you are taking it to say you are going to build certain halls for functions, that must be what you must apply for. If you are taking it for road, of course, that must be what you must apply it for. And so, Sukuk has another advantage that, look, the moment the federal government says this 100 billion Sukuk it's using is going to be used to finance road projects across the country, the federal government must stick to it religiously. And so that is why I said, look, even when you look at part of the problems Nigeria has faced over the years, governments will take loans ostensibly to finance certain projects, but at the end of the day, such money will end up in some private pockets.
That's why the question is as to what will be different about this? What will be different about this?
Such fears are totally removed when you're talking about Sukuk. I don't see the basis.
Make us understand. What are the monitoring mechanisms that will make the application or the execution of Sukuk fund or bond, as the case may be, different from other loans that government gets?
You see, the way they've structured Sukuk is such that you cannot take anything outside the proceeds.
Okay.
From the proceed outside your initially stated objective for taking it.
What are the mechanisms? Now we understand the strict specification of the Sukuk bond. If you're taking it for that, that is what you should. But what are the mechanisms to ensure and know that actually you got this money for this and you used it for this?
You see, it's just like the same normal way that financial institutions monitor loans disbursed for such purposes. You know that if you are taking a loan from a bank, perhaps to execute a particular project, the bank also has a role in monitoring how you are applying the fund that you are getting according to the agreements. So when you're issuing bonds, Sukuk, of course, there are also terms and conditions that guide this thing, and you must strictly adhere to those terms and conditions. For instance, if you cannot use Sukuk to finance the construction of a brothel, those are conditions. But outside that, there are basic laid down procedures for Sukuk implementation, and I don't think these are even issues that even cause for concern as being expressed by the Christian Association of Nigeria. And I said at some other forum that look, in Nigeria, if we are looking for progress, we must look for progress devoid of mutual suspicion that we are having like this. For instance, if you consider the Sukuk taken by Osun, since the implementation, we issued that bond, what is it that you can say about Osun that has gone down as an instance of Islamization? Is it a fact that, okay, the schools that were built with the bond, with the Sukuk, they said it's only for Muslim students? There's nothing like that. So when you look at this thing holistically, you know that this is a big advantage for the country, and we must try as much as possible to all join hands with the federal government to ensure its successful implementation.
What goes into it? Don't you think that it should even have consulted in order to forestall or avoid any kind of controversy? So you can consult to make people aware of what it's doing.
See, I believe what you're talking about, the federal government 100 billion naira Sukuk issuance, is not a matter that is starting just today. I think this was something that was introduced since June this year. Since June this year. And between June to now, between June to November, to September, we are talking of how many months? And within that period, I believe enough sensitization has gone into the federal government decision to take this bond. So I do not see any controversy. I do not see any suspicion. I do not see any need for us to delay. So any other thing, protests, condemnations, criticisms, will only slow us down, and we will be missing in a very great way the advantage that we ought to take from this venture.
All right. Samuel Kolawa, Special Advisor to the Washington State Governor on Information and Strategy. Thank you for enlightening us on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay.